Oh, Jenny, I can't hear you anymore. No. Can you hear me? You're silent. And your microphone's not off? I can't hear. Yeah, me too. Okay. No one can hear you, Jenny. Do you want to, are you, if you log in and out, does that lose the feed? I can ask my own questions and answer them. I'm sure that'll be really dynamic.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
All right, fire, amazing. What a way. Whatever. Week one, we'll look back. Week 25, week 45, and be like, remember when we couldn't make this work. Well, to everyone that's here, thank you for being here. This is the first week that we are starting to run what we're like to call like our marketing bite size webinars every week, like a topic. Make sure that you guys walk away with either some good information, some thought starters, some actual insights on all things related to creators, social media, marketing. This week, we're lucky that the first guest setting a really high bar. We've got our head of creator partnerships to my left or my right, wherever you see her on the screen. We have Ashley Riske with us. Ash, as she is to me, is someone that's been in the space for a very, very, very long time, seen a ton of stuff, worked with major creators, micro creators on the software side, on the services side. And so when we thought of what's the best topic to come up with, thought the best way to go about this was at the core of everything that Ashley's done over the past, whatever, 8 to 10 years is around the creator and who are the right creators. And she's gone through from the YouTube era to the TikTok era to the Vine era to the Instagram era. So there's a lot of experience, which builds the perspective, which comes to like really solid principles. Ash, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
So let's go with the kind of a bigger opening question. But when you're talking with brands, when you're talking with ad agencies, or even people on our team, and they say, Ash, we want you to build a roster for this brand. Like, what goes through your mind? What are the first things you're trying to check off to get the conversation going?
For sure. So the first thing that I think sometimes is undervalued is their audience. And I love that our platform does this because I think it's a really important point that sometimes people miss out when they don't have technology. And so a lot of times people will make the assumption that they love the creator and therefore their audience must mirror what that persona is. And I've worked with some really amazing creators that are like 35, 40-year-old men. And, that you would think that their parents, they'd be the perfect fit. They would mirror that. But then you do a deep dive and you realize because they talk about inspirational content, it's actually other young men that are looking up to them. So more like in the 18 to 25. So if you're talking about parenting hacks, like that's going to be a miss. So thinking about like the audience for the platform and if they're the right fit versus maybe you're using them for content for your media mix, that might be a different approach because they could still be a really great role model, but their audience for organic reach might not be a fit. So like, how do you make sure you're hitting your audience? Another thing I think about is like them as a fit in general, like a brand fit. And so I think that it's really about that matching criteria, and somebody that is a little bit more risky or edgy is probably not for a brand safe or a brand that is super safe conscious, because they might speak the narrative, but you might not be comfortable with them. Also thinking about like how much control you're willing to give them, how much control they want. Sometimes people want more guidance. Some people want more direction versus creativity. So really thinking about like the fit for them in the campaign, and as well as like their style or their platform in terms of the the audience you're trying to reach, your campaign goals. And then I also like to think about goals in general, and then like what is your media mix and how is this content being played. So for example, like TikTok and YouTube plays with sound on, versus Instagram doesn't. And so sometimes like to be an effective ad, you need to be more visual. Sometimes for certain brands that really um, organic feel is really great for building trust, but some brands really want a polished look. So I think that then it goes down back to the goals that the brand is trying to fit. So I look at audience, if they're a brand fit, and what goals the brand has.
I like that a lot. I think it's pretty fundamental the way you look at things, right? There's the allure of working with creators, as you were saying, but it's what are you trying to get out of it? Is it the association? Is it the audience that they have? Is it their content creating abilities? So I like that. So for everyone here to the takeaway on this is like high level, what are your goals? And then based off of that, then it's the incentive of what matters most. And Ashley brought up a great point about it obviously matters on who the creator is, but look at their audience. So kind of on that topic, what else or how would you help, let's say, another brand marketer think about like what are some wow, I can't speak today, tips and tricks when like you're assessing the creators beyond maybe follower count and beyond engagement rate and location? What are the things that you're looking for that are the high indicators that in terms of fit, that topic of fit that you spoke about, that they're going to be the right people?
I think with creator marketing, something we can't forget and how it all started is around storytelling. And this is where it originally originated, as well as why it continues to grow because people want to be entertained. They don't want to be sold to. And I think that storytelling, that authentic fit is so important. And so it really is back to the creator and how does this brand or this product fit in with their story? And something that we do that I love is this hand raise function. We've coined it that way because we're putting the creator in the driver's seat and sending them the opportunity and allowing them to turn it down or to raise their hand and talk about why this fits in with their story. And I think that sometimes is missed in their feed. You can't see that story. You can't see that those moments that no AI is going to be ever able to ever replicate. And so you might not know that they moved from India and TD was the first bank that they used and it was their sense of home, or that their parents drove a Toyota and so when they turned 16 that was the first car that they had, because it was what it reminds them of home. Or that when they were 16, their first foray into lipstick was L'Oreal, and it was what they got excited to spend their first paycheck on, and that's always been their lipstick of choice. So without those stories, you don't really get the opportunity to get to know the person behind the feed. And I think at the end of the day, we're not selling a commodity; we're selling partnerships and we're selling stories.
Mm. So in your experience, have you seen that brands will take, let's say, that initial call with creators to get to know them? And is that a smart play or is that maybe more something they should do later on in terms of building a partnership?
Well, I think it's hard to scale to have calls with everybody. So that's why I like that you can review all the handwritten messages within our platform. If you aren't using us or a platform, I would in your initial outreach, and again, not ask them for a pitch because don't ask somebody for free work. But if you're finding other ways to do that homework and that investigation, I think it's important to say why you're intrigued about that person. Like I think you'd be a really good fit for our brand because of X, Y, and Z. And was curious, why maybe you thought that you might be if you are. And don't go straight to the dollars, like really have like even a few emails to start to talk about that fit. And I
Mm.
think that comes down to like how I often will like have those first conversations with creators to talk about not only the product, but like what are the creative goals? Like, are you really open with that? What are you trying to achieve here? Like, is it an open slate or is there like a very specific campaign that you're working around? And does that make sense? And so I think having a conversation about like that intent and the and the deliverables before you get to rates is important. I think a lot of people jump to that. It's like, are you interested? What is your rate?
Hmm, definitely so. Well, it goes to what we know, right? We come from like a world of programmatic or out of home, and that is the hey, it costs 100K to get on this subway station in this area over the next 6 months. Do you have budget? Where to your point, you're saying the value of creators is they have a story. A lot of the time, the audience is connecting with them over a story. So if you can understand their backstory and tie that to what are you looking to do as a brand, as you said so well, I think that is a again non-scalable way. Like it might take a little longer, but it sounds like you're going to get better performance. You're going to get more value out of it in the future. We've been talking about the positive stuff. I think it's fun to flip the script, kind of run the negative side of it. What are misconceptions that you see marketers or brands or agencies you talk to? What are the conception? What are the things they care for that you're like you're maybe it's red herring. Maybe this actually isn't as valuable to assess a creator.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think one of the big misconceptions is people think that that first post is going to perform immediately. And I think that's unfair for a bunch of reasons. Like, one, if you think about like a sales relationship, like the best seller doesn't jump to that sale, right? You warm up your audience, you warm up the lead. And so I think that a lot of times, like jumping to that conversion can be really damaging. Like it sometimes feels very inauthentic. And then also, you also have to think about the other things at stake, your environmental things. Like, for example, the whole thing about the submarine around the Titanic, like that came out of nowhere, but that took over social media. So maybe if somebody was posting during that time, maybe their content got a little bit lost if it was only the one post with the algorithm. Or, potentially, it is a product that takes a couple of times to talk about before somebody like jumps to that next thing, or didn't see it or didn't have time to engage or something like that. So I think like measuring success off of one post is a huge issue. And people are too quick to be like that creator or person or event didn't work because we're basing it off of too little data. So I think that's one. The other thing I think often is a huge misconception is that creator needs to be in the same vertical. And we saw this with a brand that was really promoting this health conscious product, and they thought they should only work with health conscious creators. But what's interesting is their feed is flooded with health conscious products, ideas, routines. And so sometimes that's oversaturating. And what they found is by taking a risk and just trying a couple of other verticals, they were able to expand their customer base and now predominantly work with creators outside of the health and wellness vertical. And so I think if you stay too niche on something, it really you struggle then to sort of make a splash and also grow your customer base. And because this is quite a cost-effective marketing channel, I think it's a really great idea to test with different niches, different types of creative, and then not always expect it to be like so polished. Like try things that like feel a little bit more native to platform. Maybe try something that's a little bit funnier or more playful, and so not sticking so tightly to a script. I think can really allow you to test and see what else is going to perform outside of your expectations.
Hmm. Two really, really good points. I like if I'm going to play favorites, I like the second one better. I think you're so right that there is the opportunity to go beyond what seems to be the scope, and maybe that's first mover advantage for the creator using such type of product. But I think a point that you brought up, which is really important, is especially if there's like an emotional connection, if it's something health conscious, which is really going to help your life or make you feel better or help you with maybe a disease or an illness you're going through, that's going to hit automatically. If it's like, hey, I'm a finance creator, but I just bought a couch, you're like, maybe that won't see the same thing. So really, really good call out. Um, okay, we have a couple more questions left. The one that comes up often is, and you alluded to it, to be like, hey, a brand's like, hey, creator, what's your rate? Can we work? What info do you ask from a brand before approaching creators or approaching creator teams to make it feel that at least the partnership conversations are starting off on the right foot and there's a good foundation to it?
Yeah, and I think that it's really important to treat them as a partner and give them as much information up front so that they can decide if it's the right opportunity for them and that they can also price it accordingly. So it's really important to understand things like the creative or the creative brief and the freedom with that or what you're expecting because some people, really thrive in a lot of direction, but other people are like, if you are going to make me a robot and make me say an infomercial, then that's not going to be a fit for me. And so I think understanding the client and the creative is a big component in a creator making sure that that is the right fit. But then it's also how you plan to use and scale this that I think is really important for you to be honest with upfront. So what do the exclusivity terms look like? And are you willing to pay for that? How are you going to be using these assets? And are they going to be able to make the right content for you in the placements? And again, like, how are you compensating them for that? Because, we've launched our licensing tool recently. And I think I've always been a big advocate that creators are creatives and they are a little production media unit within, one either person or team. And it's so cost effective and so impactful to use content that entertains across a whole range of media mixes, whether that is programmatic or social paid, even out of home, CTV. Like you can use that content, but it's important for the creator to know upfront how that's going to be used. One, from a creative direction, but two, because so that they are comfortable with their content being served that way. And then I think things like timing, even, people have lives, like they might be on going on vacation. Your timelines might be too tight. Like I've seen a lot of times brands be like, well, can't they turn this around in 2 or 3 days? You have to remember a lot of times there may be lighting and setup and different phases that they need to capture to edit that all together. Like I know a lot of people film on their phone and just assume that that is what a creator does, but that is often not the case. And if they are using their phone, they might be using like different editing tricks or different other hacks or not hacks but tips and tricks for them to be able to perform. So you can't just assume that it can be done really quickly. Like there a lot of times a lot of care and time goes into that production.
Mm. It's a funny anecdote on that last point. We run, you and I know this, but for the audience here at Hashtag Paid, we run dinners with incredible marketers in a city and two or three really high performing creators. And we were talking to one of the creators that's coming to an upcoming dinner. And we're like, hey, what's one thing that's super frustrating to you? And she's like, what brands don't understand is she's like, I'm changing my hairstyle every 2 weeks or sometimes every week.
Mhm.
And so if you're saying, oh, well, I need this done over a week, cool. I'm going to figure out exactly when I'm going to shoot it so that it fits within the image and the image doesn't look off. If you're trying to get it quick, I might be getting my hair done tomorrow and you're trying to ask for something quick. I
Interesting.
don't know. And I was like, oh, such a good point. Again, nuances that you wouldn't need from a billboard, you wouldn't need from programmatic ads. But to your point, when you're working with humans, those are elements that you do have to think about. So I really like what you were saying there. Let's end off on this. This is a conversation we talk about a lot. I think just as friends at Hashtag Paid, as Hashtag Paid in general. Like, can you differ between creators, influencers? Is there a real difference between a creator and an influencer? How do you view it? How do you take that question or that topic?
Yeah, I think one of the things I've always loved to say is influence is an outcome, not a profession. And I think that when it comes down to it, people have influence because of their narrative, because of the value that they add. And so I think a lot of times it comes down to the people that are like go out to seek to be an influencer. Don't always have the same intentions as a creator. I think when you work with creators, they are thinking about your goals. They're thinking about the big picture. They're ideally looking for partnerships. They won't take the content down afterwards because they're intentional about what they put out there, and they're building a community, and that community then responds. And I think that there's something just more integral about a creator, but then I think it's the brand has a lot of accountability to hold them to that. Because I think a lot of times, they want that immediate conversion, and that sort of then turns them into a quote unquote influencer. So if you are just like, use this code, I want you to convert, your very first post without like a real like moment attached to it, like it's not necessarily Father's Day or Christmas, like I just want you to be like, sell, 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 buy, buy, buy. I think that kind of makes them cringy influencer. And so like I think that ideally the brand also comes to the table and it's like I respect you as a creator. I want to work with you. I want to like ideally have more than one post and we're thinking about that whole funnel so that I have a chance to, build some awareness with maybe some unboxing videos or some, content about what this is and then I have a chance to further engage you and see how this is coming to life in more informational videos or routine videos, or maybe the brand rewards the audience with like a contest or something that continues to keep that brand top of mind. And then in a moment, like a sale moment where, it makes sense to be buying things like I said, Father's Day or Christmas, or maybe it's like a 4th of July celebration, there's a special promo code where you've seen me use this over the last few, weeks or months. And now here's an opportunity to buy it at 20% off. So I think that it's also on the brand to not make someone feel like the influencer memes that are put out there that feel a bit more tacky.
Dan, oh, so much info in 20 minutes. I really like how you started off that answer in terms of the distinction that it's an outcome, it's not a profession. I think that's a really tasteful way of applying it. I don't know if you saw my reaction. I was like, I've never heard you say that before, but I really, really, really like that. We're at 1:21 Eastern time. It's whatever 3 hours earlier. If you're on the Pacific time, it's the first time we've ever done this. Ash, thank you for coming through. I had a lot of fun. I genuinely, even though we talk often, I learned a lot. And thank you for thinking about this thoughtfully and giving some really useful takeaways. For everyone here, again, this is going to be a weekly thing that we do at Hashtag Paid. We're going to be bringing through people from our team or outsiders who are experts in different topics and just having 15-20 minute conversations around topics so you can get great information and then be able to use it and go on with your day. So next week, Wednesday, 1 p.m. Eastern, we're talking how do you use creator content beyond maybe just social media or beyond the campaign, and what is creator rights, what is licensing that Ash was talking to. We're going to be speaking to Olivia Harris, who's our product marketing manager and an unbelievable mind. So to everyone here, thank you for coming through. Ash, thank you again. And hopefully we see you next Wednesday. And if not next Wednesday, some Wednesday in the future at 1 p.m.
Amazing. Thanks for having me, Danny.
All right, guys, we'll chat soon.
Bye.